The father of an innocent waitress sold her virginity to the Mafia Boss to pay a debt, but the Mafia Boss became obsessed with her and decided to make her his wife. Before we dive in, ladies, hit that like button. We're building the biggest romance community on YouTube, and trust me, honey, you're gonna want to be part of the sisterhood. Emma Rose Carter's hands trembled as she poured coffee into the cracked mug at table 12. 24 years old, working double shifts at Rosie's diner, and she still couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching her. That someone had been watching her for 3 days straight now. A man in an expensive charcoal suit who never ordered more than black coffee and never touched his phone. Just watched, like a hawk eyeing a rabbit. The diner's fluorescent lights flickered, they always did around midnight, casting shadows that made her jumpier than usual. Her father hadn't come home in 2 days. Robert Carter, the man who'd raised her alone after her mother died, the man who'd promised he'd quit gambling, had vanished. Again. But this time felt different. This time the men who'd come looking for him weren't the usual loan sharks from downtown. These men wore suits that cost more than her car. Emma. Rosie's voice cut through her thoughts, sharp and worried. That man in booth 7 wants to speak with you. Specifically you. The older woman's face had gone pale, and Rosie didn't scare easy. She'd run this diner in Brooklyn for 30 years, had seen everything from bar fights to armed robberies. Whatever was happening now had her spooked. Emma's heart hammered against her ribs as she approached booth 7. The man sitting there was different from the watcher at table 12. Younger, maybe early 30s, with dark hair swept back and eyes so blue they looked almost unnatural under the diner's harsh lighting. He wore a navy suit that probably cost more than she made in 6 months. A gold ring with an intricate crest caught the light as he gestured for her to sit. Miss Carter. His voice was smooth, controlled, with just a hint of an Italian accent. My name is Dominic Castellano. I believe your father owes me something. The way he said it, casual, almost friendly, made her blood run cold. She'd heard that name before, whispered in the kitchen by delivery guys, mentioned in hushed tones by cops who came in for coffee. Dominic Castellano wasn't just another businessman. He was the Castellano, the man who controlled half of New York's underground operations. I don't know where he is, Emma said quickly, her voice steadier than she felt. I haven't seen him in 2 days. Whatever he did, whatever he owes, I'm not involved. She started to stand, but his hand shot out, not touching her, just hovering above her wrist. A gesture, a command. Sit, please. It wasn't a request. Your father borrowed $300,000 from me 6 months ago. He promised me a business opportunity that never materialized. The interest has been accumulating. He slid a folder across the table. Inside were photos. Her father at casinos, horse tracks, poker games and basement rooms she didn't recognize. He gambled it away. Every cent. And now he's proposing something rather unconventional to settle his debt. Emma's stomach dropped. The folder contained one more item, a contract with her name on it. Her hands shook as she read the terms. Her father had sold her, not for labor, not for servitude. He'd sold her virginity to this man, this stranger, this monster in an expensive suit, for 1 night to clear his debt. The paper slipped from her fingers. This can't be legal, she whispered, her voice breaking. But she knew better. In Dominic Castellano's world, legal didn't matter. Power did. I won't do it. You can't make me. Dominic leaned back, his expression unreadable. No, I can't make you, but your father is currently in a very precarious situation. He borrowed from other people too, people far less patient than I am. If his debt to me isn't settled by Friday, I withdraw my protection. He has 3 days to live, maybe less. He stood, buttoning his jacket with practiced ease. The choice, Miss Carter, is entirely yours. Your virtue for your father's life. You have 48 hours to decide. My driver will be waiting outside. He walked toward the door, then paused, looking back at her with something that might have been regret. Or maybe that was just what she wanted to see. For what it's worth, he said quietly, I'm not happy about this arrangement either, but I always collect my debts, one way or another. The diner door chimed as he left, and Emma sat frozen in the booth, staring at the contract that would either save her father's worthless life or destroy what was left of her own. Outside, a black Mercedes idled at the curb, waiting. She had 48 hours to decide if her father's life was worth more than her dignity. And honey, let me tell you, she was about to make a choice that would change absolutely everything. Emma didn't sleep. How could she? She sat in her tiny studio apartment, the one with the radiator that clanked all night and the neighbor who played saxophone at 3 a.m., staring at that contract until the words blurred together. Her phone had 17 missed calls from her father. 17. Now he wanted to talk. Now he cared. She'd thrown the phone across the room after listening to the first voicemail. Baby girl, I know this seems bad, but it's our only option. Castellano's not a bad guy. He'll treat you right. Just one night, Emma. One night, and we're free. One night, like it was nothing, like he was asking her to work an extra shift, not sell the one thing she'd been saving for someone she actually loved. The bastard had the audacity to call Dominic Castellano not a bad guy. The man ran organized crime in New York. He'd probably killed people. Definitely had people killed. And her father wanted her to sleep with him to pay off a gambling debt. At dawn, she walked to the cemetery where her mother was buried. Margaret Carter had died when Emma was 16. Cancer, the slow, brutal kind that gave you time to say goodbye, but never enough time to prepare. Her mother would have been horrified. Or maybe not. Maybe she would have understood that sometimes you make impossible choices for people you love, even when they don't deserve it. What do I do, Mom? Emma whispered to the headstone, her breath fogging in the cold October air. A crow landed on a nearby monument, cocking its head at her like it was waiting for an answer too. Nature's little spy. But the dead don't answer, and Emma was alone with a decision that felt like choosing between drowning or burning alive. She went to work that afternoon, moving through her shift like a ghost. The man at table 12 was back. She'd learned his name was Marco, one of Castellano's men. He wasn't even trying to be subtle anymore. Just sat there, watching, making sure she didn't run. Where would she even go? She had $300 in her bank account and a father with a death warrant. At 7 p.m., her phone rang. Unknown number. She knew who it was before she answered. Miss Carter. Dominic's voice was just as smooth as she remembered, but there was something else underneath it now. Tension, maybe. Have you made your decision? God, the man got straight to the point. No small talk, no weather commentary. Just straight to, have you decided to sleep with me to save your deadbeat father? If I do this, Emma said, her voice hollow, what happens after? Do I just go back to my life, pretend it never happened? She needed to know, needed to understand what she was walking into. A laugh echoed through the phone, not cruel but not kind either. Knowing, like he'd expected the question. I'm a man of my word, Miss Carter. One night your father's debt is cleared. You never hear from me again unless you want to. There was a pause, then quieter. I don't make a habit of this. Your father put us both in an impossible situation, but I won't pretend this is anything other than what it is, a transaction. You give me what was promised, I give you your father's life. Emma closed her eyes. A transaction. At least he was honest about it. Tomorrow night, she heard herself say, her voice sounding like it belonged to someone else. I'll do it tomorrow night, but I have conditions. Name them. He sounded almost surprised that she was negotiating. Honey, this girl might have been naive, but she wasn't stupid. If she was going to sell herself, she was going to do it on her terms. My father leaves New York. I never see him again. You make sure he can't gamble away any more lives. Her hand clenched around the phone so hard her knuckles went white. And this stays between us. No one else knows. Not your men, not anyone. Another pause. She could hear him breathing, thinking. Agreed. I'll send a car for you tomorrow at 8 p.m. Wear something comfortable. This doesn't have to be. He trailed off, searching for words. Clinical. But it is clinical, Emma said bitterly. That's exactly what it is. A business transaction. You said so yourself. She hung up before he could respond, her hands shaking so badly she dropped the phone. It clattered against the diner floor, the screen cracking in a spiderweb pattern. Fitting. Everything in her life was cracking apart. Rosie appeared at her elbow with a shot of whiskey. I don't know what's going on, honey, but you look like you need this. The older woman's eyes were kind, concerned. Whatever it is, you don't have to do it alone. But Emma did have to do it alone. Because she couldn't explain this to anyone. Couldn't say the words out loud. My father sold my virginity to a mob boss, and I'm actually going through with it. So she took the shot, felt it burn down her throat, and tried to pretend that tomorrow night wasn't coming. That she wasn't about to cross a line you could never uncross. The black Mercedes was still outside when her shift ended. Marco nodded at her through the window. 36 hours to go. She wondered if Dominic Castellano was counting down too, or if this was just another Tuesday for him. Another debt collected. Another girl's life traded like currency. Welcome to New York, baby, where everything has a price and everyone eventually pays. Emma spent her last day of innocence doing completely ordinary things. She got her nails done, pale pink, nothing flashy. She bought new underwear at Target, the nice kind that actually matched, because if she was doing this, she wasn't doing it in her usual threadbare cotton. She sat in Central Park and watched people live their normal lives. Joggers, dog walkers, a couple having a picnic like the world wasn't ending for someone else right that very moment. Her phone buzzed constantly. Her father, still calling, still texting. Please answer me. I'm sorry. I had no choice. That last one made her laugh, a sharp, bitter sound that startled the pigeons near her bench. He had a choice. He'd had lots of choices. He'd chosen gambling over rent, chosen poker over electricity, chosen one more hand over his daughter's dignity, every single time. At 6 p.m., she went home and showered until the water ran cold. Put on the simple black dress she'd bought. Nothing sexy, nothing that screamed, I'm about to sleep with a stranger for money. Just a dress. Then she sat on her bed and waited, watching the minutes tick by on her cracked phone screen. 7:30, 7:45, 7:50. At exactly 8 p.m., her buzzer rang. She grabbed her purse. Because what do you bring to your own selling? Chapstick? ID? A sense of impending doom? And walked downstairs like she was walking to her own execution. The Mercedes was there, sleek and black and entirely out of place on her shabby street. Marco opened the back door without a word. His eyes held something like pity. She hated him for it. The drive took 30 minutes, winding through Manhattan until they reached the Upper East Side, the land of old money and older secrets. The car pulled up to a beautiful brownstone with ivy crawling up the facade and flowers in the window boxes. It looked like someone's dream home, not the lair of a crime lord. But I guess even monsters like pretty things, right? Marco opened her door. Top floor, he's expecting you. That was it. No pep talk, no warning, just top floor and good luck with your life-altering decision. Emma climbed the front steps on shaky legs, her heels clicking against the stone. The front door was unlocked. Of course it was. When you're Dominic Castellano, you don't need locks. The interior was stunning. All dark wood and leather furniture, artwork that probably cost more than her entire life, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. It screamed wealth, but tasteful wealth. Nothing gaudy, everything deliberate. A curved staircase led to the upper floors, and she climbed it slowly, her heart trying to escape through her ribcage. The top floor was one massive master suite, and standing by the window, looking out at the Manhattan skyline, was Dominic Castellano. He'd ditched the suit jacket, just black slacks and a white dress shirt with the sleeves rolled up, revealing surprisingly tattooed forearms. He turned when she entered, and for the first time, she saw him look uncertain. You came, he said, like he'd genuinely doubted she would, like maybe he'd hoped she wouldn't. I wasn't sure you would. He gestured to a bottle of wine on the dresser. Would you like a drink? Might make this easier. His voice was gentler than at the diner, almost careful, like he was trying not to spook a wild animal. Will it? Emma asked, moving into the room but keeping distance between them. Make it easier? Because I don't think anything makes this easier, Mr. Castellano. You're not my boyfriend. You're not someone I chose. You're a debt collector, and I'm payment. The words came out sharper than she intended, but God, she was so angry. At him, at her father, at herself for being here. Something flickered across his face, hurt, maybe, or recognition. You're right. He poured himself a drink instead, whiskey, not wine. You want honesty? I'll give you honesty. I didn't want this arrangement. Your father proposed it. Said his daughter was pure, beautiful, worth the debt. Like you were a prize heifer at auction. He took a long drink, his jaw tight. It made me sick. But I'm a businessman, Miss Carter. I have a reputation. If I forgive his debt, every desperate man in New York will think they can cross me. So here we are. Here we are, Emma echoed hollowly. She moved to the window, looking out at the glittering city. All those lights, all those people, living normal lives. None of them selling themselves to save a father who didn't deserve saving. So how does this work? Do we just get it over with? Christ. Dominic set his glass down hard. No, we don't just get it over with. Despite what you think of me, I'm not a monster. Despite this situation, I'm not... He stopped, running a hand through his dark hair. Sit, please. Let's talk first. And weirdly, he sounded like he actually wanted to talk. Like maybe this was just as strange for him. Emma sat on the edge of the massive bed, her hands folded in her lap like she was at a job interview. A really, really weird job interview. Dominic pulled up a chair, maintaining distance. Gentleman criminal, how novel. Tell me about yourself, he said. Not as a debt, as a person. What do you like? What do you want from life? The question caught her off guard. What does it matter? But he waited, patient, expectant. So she talked about her mother, her dreams of going to culinary school, her love of old movies and rainy days. And somehow, impossibly, he listened like he actually cared, asked questions, shared his own story, growing up in his family's business, never having a choice about his future, understanding what it meant to be trapped by circumstances. 2 hours passed like minutes. The wine bottle emptied, the city lights blurred. And when he finally stood, moving toward her, Emma realized something terrifying. She didn't hate him. This man who'd bought her like property, she didn't hate him. Maybe that made her weak. Maybe it made her human. If you want to leave, Dominic said quietly, standing in front of her. Leave. I'll clear your father's debt anyway. Consider it a moment of weakness. His blue eyes searched hers. But if you stay, I want it to be because you choose to, not because you have to. And honey, that choice, that one moment of unexpected kindness, changed everything. Emma didn't leave. She should have. God knows she should have. Taken his offer, walked out that door, never looked back. But something in his eyes, in the way he'd listened to her like she mattered, like she was more than a transaction. She stayed. And when he kissed her, tentative and careful like she might break, she kissed him back. What followed wasn't the clinical exchange she'd expected. It was gentle, slow, almost reverent. And that somehow made it worse, because it meant something when it was supposed to mean nothing. She left before dawn, while Dominic was sleeping. Marco drove her home in silence, and she climbed the stairs to her apartment feeling like a different person. She was. She'd crossed that line, made that choice, and there was no going back. The debt was paid. Her father was safe. She never had to see Dominic Castellano again. So why did that thought make her chest ache? For 3 days, life returned to something resembling normal. She worked her shifts, avoided her father's calls, tried not to think about blue eyes and gentle hands, and the way Dominic had whispered her name like a prayer. Then on the 4th day, he walked into the diner. Just walked in at 2 p.m. like a regular customer, sat at booth 7, ordered coffee and pie. Emma nearly dropped her tray. What are you doing here? She hissed when she brought his order, her hands shaking. We had a deal. One night, you said I'd never have to see you again. But even as she said it, she realized she didn't mean it, didn't want it. What was wrong with her? Stockholm Syndrome? Trauma bonding? Or maybe just loneliness recognizing loneliness? I know what I said. Dominic looked at her with an intensity that made her knees weak. I haven't been able to stop thinking about you. That night, it wasn't just a transaction for me, Emma. It meant something. You meant something. He pulled out an envelope, slid it across the table. Your father left New York this morning. One-way ticket to Seattle. New identity. Enough money to start over. He can't gamble it away. It's in a trust that pays out monthly. He's gone. You're free. Emma stared at the envelope, not touching it. Free. She should feel relieved, elated. Instead, she felt hollow. Why are you telling me this? Why are you here? Her voice cracked despite her best efforts. What do you want from me? Everything. The word hung between them, heavy with meaning. I want to see you again. Take you to dinner. Get to know you without debt hanging over us. I know it's insane. I know you have every reason to hate me, but I'm asking anyway. He stood, pulled out his wallet, left a $100 bill for a $5 order. No pressure, no obligation. Just think about it. He was almost to the door when Emma heard herself say, Thursday, 7 p.m., but I choose the place. What was she doing? This man had bought her virginity. She should run screaming. Instead, she was agreeing to a date. A date, like they were normal people with a normal story. Nothing about this was normal. Dominic turned, and his smile could have melted glaciers. Thursday, 7 p.m., I'll have Marco pick you up. And then he was gone, leaving Emma standing in the middle of Rosie's diner, wondering if she'd just made the best or worst decision of her life. Spoiler alert, honey. It was about to get a whole lot more complicated. Thursday came faster than Emma expected. She'd agonized over what to wear. Too casual seemed wrong. Too dressy seemed desperate. She settled on a blue dress her mother had bought her years ago, simple and elegant. Marco picked her up at 6:45 because apparently Dominic Castellano's people were always early. But instead of driving to some fancy Manhattan restaurant, they headed to Brooklyn, to a little Italian place Emma had mentioned loving but not being able to afford. Dominic was waiting outside, looking unfairly handsome in jeans and a black Henley. Casual, normal, not like a man who controlled half the city's underground. You remembered? Emma said softly, touched despite herself. I mentioned this place once, 2 hours into a very strange night, and you remembered. I remember everything you said that night. He offered his arm, old-fashioned and charming. Shall we? The restaurant was tiny, family-owned, with checkered tablecloths and candles in wine bottles. The owner recognized Dominic immediately. Everyone in Little Italy knew him, but treated Emma like a queen by extension. They were given the best table, near the window, with a view of the Brooklyn Bridge lighting up as evening fell. Dinner was easy in a way Emma hadn't expected. They talked about everything and nothing, her dreams, his responsibilities, their shared love of old noir films, her mother's recipes, his grandmother's superstitions. He made her laugh with stories about Marco's terrible dating advice. She made him smile with impressions of Rosie's worst customers. For 3 hours, they were just two people sharing a meal, not a criminal and his purchased girl, just Emma and Dominic. I need to tell you something, Dominic said as they shared tiramisu, his expression serious. My world, it's dangerous. People want what I have. Power, territory, money. If they knew you mattered to me, if we kept seeing each other, you'd become a target. He reached across the table, his hand covering hers. I'm asking you to take a risk, a real one. Not because you owe me, not because your father's debt, but because maybe this could be something real. Emma's throat tightened. You're asking me to date a mob boss, to put myself in danger, to become part of your world. She should say no, should run, should protect herself. But when she looked at him, she saw something she recognized. Someone trapped by circumstances, trying to find something real in a world built on lies. I'm already in danger, aren't I? You said people want what you have. They saw Marco watching me. They know we had that night together. His jaw tightened. Yes, I've had men watching your building since then. Protection. I couldn't leave you vulnerable because of what your father did, what I agreed to. At least he was honest. Scary, but honest. So the question isn't whether you're in danger. The question is whether you'll let me protect you. Whether you'll give this, us, a real chance. Emma looked out at the Brooklyn Bridge, lit up against the night sky. 1 week ago, her biggest worry was making rent. Now she was considering dating a man who probably had bodies buried in Jersey. Her mother would have been horrified, or maybe she would have understood that sometimes you find connection in the strangest places, with the most unexpected people. I must be insane, Emma whispered. Completely insane. But yes, let's see what this is. And when Dominic smiled, really smiled, not the careful, controlled expression he wore like armor, she thought maybe insane wasn't so bad. Maybe insane was just another word for brave. They kissed in the car on the way back to her apartment, and it was different than that first night. This kiss was a beginning, not an ending. A promise, not a transaction. And when he walked her to her door, gentleman that he was, Emma realized she was falling for him. Fast and hard and terrifyingly real. Be careful with my heart, she said softly, her hand on her doorknob. It's not for sale. It has to be earned. Dominic cupped her face, his thumb brushing her cheek. I know. I plan to spend the rest of my life earning it. And honey, he meant every word. But neither of them knew that someone was watching. Someone who'd been Dominic's past. Someone who wanted him back. Someone who would burn the whole world down before letting Emma Rose Carter steal what belonged to her. The game was just beginning. The next 3 months were a fever dream. Dominic courted Emma like she was something precious. Flowers delivered to the diner, midnight drives to see the city lights, quiet evenings cooking in his brownstone kitchen. He introduced her to his world slowly, carefully. She met his inner circle, Marco, who became her unlikely friend, Sal, his accountant who looked like a linebacker but quoted Shakespeare, Luca, his cousin who ran the legitimate businesses that masked the illegal ones. She learned the rules. Never ask about business. Never speak names outside the family. Never trust anyone completely. She learned to recognize the signs of danger. A car parked too long. Unfamiliar faces at the diner. The tension in Dominic's shoulders that meant a problem needed solving. She learned that love in his world came with a price tag written in blood and loyalty. But she also learned that Dominic was more than his reputation. He donated anonymously to children's hospitals, protected neighborhood businesses from other gangs, enforced strict rules against drugs and human trafficking in his territory. He was brutal when necessary. Yes, she wasn't naive about that. But he had a code, lines he wouldn't cross, and somehow, impossibly, he'd made her one of those lines. Marry me. He said it on a random Tuesday night in December, while they were watching It's a Wonderful Life in his living room, snow falling outside the windows. No ring, no elaborate proposal. Just those 2 words, quiet and certain. I know it's fast. I know it's crazy. But I'm 32 years old, Emma. I've never wanted this with anyone. Never wanted forever until I met you. Marry me. Emma's breath caught. 3 months. They'd known each other 3 months, and he was asking her to marry him, to become Mrs. Castellano, to tie herself permanently to a world that could get her killed. Every logical bone in her body screamed no, but her heart, her stupid, reckless heart, screamed yes. Ask me properly, she whispered. With a ring, on your knee. Do it right, Dominic. He laughed, the sound rich and warm. Demanding woman. But he got up, disappeared into his bedroom, and returned with a velvet box. Inside was a ring that probably cost more than she'd make in 10 years. A platinum band with a diamond so clear it looked like captured starlight. He dropped to one knee right there on his living room floor, James Stewart's voice echoing from the TV. Emma Rose Carter, you walked into my life as payment for a debt and became the only thing I've ever wanted that money couldn't buy. You're brave and kind, and you call me on my bullshit. You make me want to be better. You make me believe I could be better. Will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life proving I deserve you? And honey, if you didn't cry a little at that, you have no soul. Yes. Emma slid off the couch onto her knees facing him, tears streaming down her face. Yes, you ridiculous man. I'll marry you. He slid the ring onto her finger, kissed her like she was oxygen, and Emma thought maybe fairy tales were real after all. Dark, twisted, morally complicated fairy tales, but real nonetheless. They married 2 weeks later, a small ceremony at City Hall with Marco and Rosie as witnesses. Dominic wore a navy suit. Emma wore her mother's vintage wedding dress that she'd kept in storage, cream lace and pearl buttons, perfectly preserved. It should have felt rushed. It should have felt wrong. Instead, it felt like the first right thing either of them had ever done. Judge Martinez declared them husband and wife, and Emma became Mrs. Emma Castellano, queen of a kingdom built on secrets and shadows. The wedding night was at the brownstone, just the 2 of them, take out Chinese food and champagne, laughing about how insane their love story was. We should never tell our kids how we met, Emma said, curled against Dominic's chest in bed, her wedding ring catching the lamplight. They'll think we're crazy. Kids? Dominic's voice was soft with wonder. You want kids with me? You want to bring children into this life? He sounded afraid, hopeful, vulnerable in a way she'd never heard. This man who commanded respect with a look, who made grown men tremble, was afraid she'd say no to his children. Maybe not right away, Emma said carefully. I want some time. Just us. Building something real. But yes, someday. I want your babies, Dominic. I want the whole complicated, messy, dangerous future with you. She tilted her head up to kiss him. Just promise me you'll try to stay alive for them. No stupid risks, no unnecessary danger, please. I promise. He held her tighter, like she might disappear. I promise I'll do everything in my power to keep coming home to you. You and whatever family we build. You're everything to me, Emma. Everything. And he meant it. God help them both. He meant every word. Life settled into a new rhythm. Emma kept working at the diner. Dominic insisted she didn't have to, but she needed the normalcy, the connection to her old life. She became part of his business operations without being in the business, hosting dinners for associates, representing the family at community events, providing cover as the respectable wife. She was good at it, better than anyone expected. The naive girl who'd been sold by her father had become a woman who could hold her own in a room full of criminals. Dominic expanded his legitimate businesses, restaurants, real estate, import, export. He was building an empire that could eventually go clean, that their future children could inherit without blood on their hands. It would take years, maybe decades, but he was trying. For her. Because she'd asked him to be better, and he'd actually listened. They were happy. Stupidly, impossibly happy. Emma would look at her husband across the dinner table, this beautiful, dangerous man who'd somehow become her entire world, and feel overwhelmed by how much she loved him, how much she'd risked for him, how much he risked every day for her. They were building something real from the ashes of a terrible beginning. But happiness in Dominic's world was always temporary, always borrowed time. Because 3,000 miles away in Los Angeles, a woman with dark eyes and a darker heart read about Dominic Castellano's marriage in a society column. Vanessa Moretti, once Vanessa Marconi, Dominic's first love, his father's choice for his bride, the woman he'd left 3 years ago when he'd taken over the family business, the woman who'd never forgiven him, who'd spent 3 years in LA building her own empire, biding her time, waiting for the perfect moment to destroy him. That moment had just arrived. Because Dominic Castellano, happy, Dominic in love, that was unacceptable. He belonged to her. And if she couldn't have him, neither could some nobody waitress from Brooklyn. Vanessa picked up her phone, made 3 calls, and set in motion a plan that would tear apart everything Emma and Dominic had built. The clock was ticking, the storm was coming, and neither of them saw it until it was too late. End of round 1, folks. The real fight was about to begin. The warning came on a Tuesday. Marco burst into the brownstone at 6 a.m., his usually calm demeanor shattered. We have a problem, a big one. He threw a folder on the kitchen table where Emma and Dominic were having coffee. Inside were surveillance photos, Emma at the diner, Emma at the grocery store, Emma walking through Central Park, all taken within the last week, all with red X marks drawn over her face. Someone's marking her, professional job. We found the photographer. He's dead. Throat slit. Message carved into his chest. She's mine to take. Emma's coffee cup shattered against the floor. Dominic's face went stone cold. The expression she'd learned meant someone was about to die. Lock down the house. Triple the security detail. No one gets within 50 feet of my wife. His voice was ice, controlled fury. He turned to Emma, and his eyes softened just slightly. You're not going to work. Not leaving this house until I find whoever's behind this. Like hell. Emma stood, ignoring the broken coffee cup at her feet. I'm not hiding. That's what they want. To make me scared, to isolate me. I won't give them that satisfaction. 3 months married to Dominic Castellano had taught her that showing fear was showing weakness, that predators attacked the vulnerable. She refused to be vulnerable. Emma, Dominic started, but she cut him off. No. You promised me a partnership, not a prison. I'll take precautions. I'll have guards. But I won't stop living my life because someone wants to scare me. She saw him warring with himself, the husband who wanted to protect her versus the boss who respected strength. The husband won, barely. Fine, but Marco doesn't leave your side. Armed guards at the diner, armored car for transport, and you wear this. He pulled a small pendant from his pocket, platinum and diamond, beautiful and deadly. Press the back, GPS tracker and silent alarm. You're in danger. We're there in 2 minutes. Non-negotiable. Emma took the necklace, let him fasten it around her neck. The weight of it reminded her that her new life came with prices she was still learning to pay. The next 2 weeks were tense. Nothing happened, which somehow made it worse. The waiting, the watching, the knowledge that someone out there wanted to hurt her, maybe kill her, and Dominic couldn't find them. His frustration grew daily. He tore through his network, interrogated contacts, offered massive rewards for information. Nothing. Whoever was behind this was a ghost. Professional, patient, dangerous. Then the messages started, notes left at the diner. Enjoying married life? It won't last. Photos slipped under their door. Emma and Dominic's wedding, with her face burned out. Flowers delivered to the brownstone. Black roses, a funeral arrangement. Each one pushed Dominic closer to the edge. Emma had never seen him like this. Controlled fury giving way to something darker, something that scared her. "I'm going to find them," he said one night, pacing their bedroom like a caged animal. "And when I do, I'm going to make them suffer. No one threatens you. No one." His hands were shaking. She'd never seen his hands shake. This wasn't the calculated mob boss. This was a man watching his world crumble, unable to stop it. Emma caught his hands, forced him to look at her. "We'll get through this, together. We've survived worse." But had they? The debt, the arrangement? Those were transactions. This was different. This was personal. This was someone who wanted to destroy not just Dominic's empire, but his heart. And honey, they were about to discover exactly who and why. The answer came from an unexpected source. Luca, Dominic's cousin, walked into his office looking like he'd seen a ghost. "You need to see this. Now." He pulled up security footage from LAX, a woman getting off a private plane. Tall, beautiful, dark hair, designer everything. She turned toward the camera for just a second, and Dominic's face went white. "No, it can't be. She's in LA. She stays in LA. That was the deal." "Who is she?" Emma demanded, looking between them. The way Dominic had reacted, the way Luca looked sick. This was bad. This was worse than bad. "Who is that woman, Dominic?" But she already knew, in that terrible way you know something before anyone confirms it. This was the past come back to haunt them. This was the ex. The one Dominic had left to take over the family business. The one who'd never forgiven him. "Vanessa Moretti," Dominic said, his voice hollow. "My ex-fiancée. My father arranged our engagement when we were teenagers. I broke it off 3 years ago when I took over, told her she needed to leave New York, start fresh. She went to LA, built her own organization out there." He looked at Emma, and for the first time since she'd met him, she saw real fear in his eyes. "She's the most dangerous person I know. And if she's back in New York, if she's coming after you..." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. Because at that exact moment, Emma's phone buzzed. Unknown number. Text message. "Hello, Emma, I'm Vanessa. We should talk. Woman to woman. After all, you're sleeping in what should have been my bed, wearing what should have been my ring. Meet me tomorrow, noon, the Plaza Fountain at Rockefeller Center. Come alone or Dominic's men start dying, starting with sweet Marco." A photo attached. Marco at a coffee shop, red crosshairs superimposed over his head. Emma showed Dominic the message. Watched his face cycle through rage, fear, calculation. "You're not going, absolutely not. It's a trap. She wants to draw you out, hurt you to hurt me. I won't allow it." His voice was firm, commanding, boss voice. But Emma wasn't one of his soldiers. She was his wife, his partner, and Marco was her friend. "I'm going." Emma's voice was steady despite her hammering heart. "She's targeting everyone I care about to get to you. This ends now. I'll wear a wire. I'll have guards nearby. But I'm meeting her, finding out what she wants. Maybe we can resolve this without more people dying." She saw Dominic about to argue, so she played her trump card. "You said you wanted a partner, not a prisoner. Trust me. Please." The next morning, Emma stood at the Rockefeller Plaza fountain at 11:55 a.m., wearing jeans and her mother's old peacoat, trying to look braver than she felt. The plaza was crowded. Tourists, workers on lunch break, street performers. Good for concealment, terrible for security. Marco and 2 other guards were positioned around the plaza, pretending to be tourists. Dominic was in a van 2 blocks away, listening through the wire taped to her ribs. She could feel his tension through the earpiece. At exactly noon, Vanessa Moretti materialized from the crowd like a beautiful nightmare. She was stunning. The kind of beautiful that made other women feel inadequate. Tall, elegant, with dark eyes that held intelligence and cruelty in equal measure. She wore a designer coat that probably cost more than Emma's wedding, and she moved with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no. "Emma Castellano," she said, her voice rich with amusement. "The waitress who stole a king. You're prettier than your photos. I see why Dominic broke his rules for you. What do you want?" Emma kept her voice level, refusing to be intimidated. "You've terrorized us for weeks, killed people, threatened my friends. What's your end game?" She wouldn't show fear, wouldn't give this woman the satisfaction. Vanessa laughed, the sound like broken glass. "Direct. I appreciate that. What do I want? I want what's mine. Dominic and I were promised to each other since we were 15. We built his father's empire together. Then he decided he wanted control, wanted power, wanted to be his own man. He exiled me to California like I was nothing. 3 years, Emma. 3 years I've waited, planning, building my own power. And then I hear he's not just with someone new. He married her. Married some nobody who doesn't understand our world, who can't possibly protect him like I could. It's unacceptable." Emma stared at Vanessa, refusing to flinch. "So this is about wounded pride? You lost control of Dominic, and now you want revenge?" She kept her voice steady, aware of Dominic listening through the wire. "That's pathetic. He didn't love you. He was trapped in an arrangement, just like I was trapped by my father's debt. The difference is, we chose each other." Vanessa's smile turned sharp. "Chose each other? Honey, you were merchandise, a transaction. Don't romanticize what you were, a virgin sold to settle debt. You think that's love?" She circled Emma like a shark. "But you're right about one thing. This is about control. Dominic took everything from me. Now I'm taking everything from him, starting with his precious wife. You won't touch her." Marco's voice cut through the plaza as he stepped forward, hand inside his jacket. But Vanessa just laughed. "Touch her? I don't need to touch her. I'm going to destroy her from the inside out. See, I've been busy, Emma. I know about your father, how he's living in Seattle under a new name, how he gets a monthly stipend from Dominic's trust. What do you think happens if that trust disappears? If he has access to money again? Will he start gambling? Drinking? Will he self-destruct and blame you for abandoning him?" Emma's blood ran cold. Vanessa had found her father, had leverage. "You leave him alone. He's not part of this." But even as she said it, she knew it was a lie. Everything was part of this. Everyone she loved was a weapon Vanessa could use. "Oh, but he is part of this. And so is sweet Marco, and Luca, and every person Dominic cares about. I'm going to pick them off one by one until he's alone, until he has nothing. Then I'll offer him a choice. Come back to me, rebuild what we had, or watch everyone die." Vanessa leaned close, her perfume expensive and suffocating. "You can't protect him from me. You don't have the stomach for this war. You're still a waitress playing dress-up in a world you don't understand. You're wrong." Emma's voice was ice. "I understand perfectly. You're a woman who can't accept rejection, who thinks power and fear equal love. Dominic doesn't want you. He never did. And killing the people he loves won't change that. It'll just prove you're exactly what he thought. A monster." She saw Vanessa's hand move, saw the flash of metal, and realized too late that the woman had a knife. Marco shouted. Guards rushed forward, but Vanessa was faster. The blade slashed across Emma's arm, not deep but enough to send a message. Blood bloomed across her peacoat as Vanessa disappeared into the crowd, her laughter echoing. "Tell Dominic I'll be seeing him soon, very soon." Emma pressed her hand to the wound, adrenaline making everything sharp and bright. Marco was at her side instantly, applying pressure. "We need to move. Now." But Emma stood frozen, watching the crowd swallow Vanessa whole. The woman was a ghost, professional, deadly, and she'd just declared war. Dominic met them at the van, his face a mask of barely controlled rage. "Let me see." His hands were gentle as he examined her arm, but his voice shook with fury. "I'm going to kill her. I'm going to find her and make her suffer for touching you." Emma had never seen him like this. Unhinged, dangerous, the careful control stripped away. "No." Emma caught his face, forced him to look at her. "That's what she wants. For you to act rashly, make mistakes. We need to be smarter. She knows about my father. Has people watching your men? She's been planning this for 3 years, Dominic. We can't just react. We need a strategy." He pulled her close, careful of her injured arm, and Emma felt him shaking. "I can't lose you. If something happened to you because of my past." His voice broke. This man who commanded empires was breaking because someone had hurt his wife. It should have been terrifying. Instead, it made Emma love him more. "You won't lose me. I'm not going anywhere." She kissed him, tasting his fear and fury. "But we need to end this. Not with more violence, with intelligence. With the one thing Vanessa doesn't expect, me fighting back." An idea was forming, dangerous and bold. Vanessa thought Emma was weak, thought she was just some waitress playing mob wife. That assumption was about to become her greatest mistake. The plan was risky, possibly insane. But Emma was done being a target. She spent the next week learning everything about Vanessa Moretti, her operation in LA, her weaknesses, her associates. Turns out, building a criminal empire from scratch made enemies. Lots of enemies. And Emma was about to become their new best friend. She reached out through Luca's contacts to 3 of Vanessa's biggest rivals in California, offered them something they couldn't refuse: access to her New York territory in exchange for information. Dominic was furious when he found out. "You did what? You negotiated with other families without telling me?" "Emma, that's..." He stopped, seeing her expression. The naive girl he'd married was gone. In her place stood a woman who understood power, who was willing to use it. "You're playing a dangerous game." "I learned from the best." Emma spread files across his desk. "Vanessa has 3 major vulnerabilities. Her drug operation in Long Beach, unstable supplier, ripe for takeover. Her casino investments in Vegas, hemorrhaging money, partners unhappy. And her second-in-command, Anthony Russo, embezzling funds and sleeping with her distributors. She's so focused on destroying you, she's ignoring her own empire crumbling. We exploit that." Dominic stared at the files, then at his wife. Pride and fear warred on his face. "You've been busy. This is solid intelligence. But if Vanessa finds out you're actively working against her..." He didn't finish. They both knew what Vanessa would do. But Emma refused to live in fear anymore. Refused to be the weakness Vanessa thought she was. "Then we move fast. We take her operation apart piece by piece. Force her to choose between attacking us or saving what she built. People like Vanessa, they're all ego. They can't stand losing. We make her lose enough. She'll make mistakes." Emma had learned that from watching Dominic. Patience, strategy, knowing when to strike and when to wait. They launched their counter-strike at dawn. Dominic's men hit Vanessa's Long Beach drug operation simultaneously, with the LAPD receiving an anonymous tip. Her entire West Coast supply chain collapsed in 6 hours. Her casino partners received documentation of Anthony's embezzlement. She lost 2 major investors by noon. And her second-in-command? Luca made him a better offer. By evening, Anthony Russo was on a plane to New York, ready to testify about every illegal operation Vanessa ran. Vanessa's response was swift and brutal. She bombed one of Dominic's restaurants in Queens. No casualties, she'd called in a warning, but the message was clear. Emma had drawn blood, and Vanessa was returning fire. The war was escalating. But for the first time, Dominic wasn't alone in fighting it. He had a partner, a queen who wouldn't back down. "She'll come for us directly now," Marco warned during their emergency meeting. "No more games, no more proxies. She's going to try to end this." He was right. The next morning, Vanessa sent a video. Her, standing in front of Emma's father's apartment in Seattle. "Hello, Castellanos. Lovely neighborhood Robert has here. Would be a shame if something happened to him. You have 24 hours. Dominic surrenders himself to me, or Daddy Dearest has an accident. Your choice." Emma watched her father through the window, oblivious to the danger outside his door. The man who'd sold her, who'd ruined her life. She should hate him, should let Vanessa have him. But she couldn't. Despite everything, he was still her father. "We protect him, set a trap, use him as bait to draw Vanessa out." Her voice was cold, calculating. Dominic looked at her with something like awe. His gentle wife had become ruthless. Love in his world required it. They moved her father to a safe house, surrounded by armed guards, then leaked false information about his location, an abandoned warehouse in Red Hook. If Vanessa wanted Robert Carter, she'd have to come get him. And when she did, they'd be waiting. The trap was set. Now they just had to hope Vanessa took the bait. Vanessa took the bait. Of course she did. Arrogance was her weakness, and Emma had learned to exploit weaknesses. The warehouse in Red Hook was rigged with cameras, armed guards hidden in every shadow, and enough firepower to start a small war. Emma wanted to be there, but Dominic refused. Absolutely not. You've done enough. This part is mine. But Emma was done taking orders, done being protected. She was Mrs. Castellano now. That meant something. She showed up at the warehouse an hour before the scheduled meeting, dressed in black, wearing a bulletproof vest under her jacket. Dominic's face when he saw her was a mixture of fury and resignation. You're impossible. But he didn't send her away, just positioned her behind reinforced concrete with Marco as her personal guard. You don't move from this spot. You see danger, you run. Promise me. I promise. Emma kissed him, tasting his fear. End this tonight. Whatever it takes. She meant it. Vanessa had threatened everyone she loved, had cut her, bombed Dominic's business, tried to destroy their life. Tonight, the war ended. One way or another. Vanessa arrived at midnight with 6 armed men. She walked into the warehouse like she owned it, wearing heels that clicked against concrete, her confidence absolute. Dominic, come out wherever you are. Let's finish this like adults. You give me what I want, I let your pathetic family live. Simple trade. Dominic stepped from the shadows, unarmed, hands visible. It's over, Vanessa. Your operation is destroyed. Your people are turning on you. Anthony gave us everything. You have nothing left to bargain with. His voice was calm, final, the voice of a man who'd already won. Nothing? Vanessa laughed, pulling a detonator from her pocket. I have this. The warehouse is rigged with C4, enough to level this block. You think I'd walk in here without insurance? Here's the new deal. You come with me now, or everyone dies. Your wife, your men, you, choose. Emma's blood turned to ice. Vanessa had anticipated the trap, had turned it against them. She saw Dominic's face change, saw him about to surrender himself. No, not after everything. Not when they'd come this far. She stepped from behind the concrete before Marco could stop her. Vanessa! Emma's voice echoed through the warehouse. You want to trade? Take me instead. I'm the one you really hate. The nobody who stole what you think is yours. Let everyone else go. This is between us. She walked forward, ignoring Dominic's shouted protests, Marco's attempts to grab her. This was her choice, her sacrifice. Vanessa's eyes lit up with predatory glee. Now this is interesting. The waitress has courage. Fine. You for everyone else. But you come with me now. Willingly. No tricks. She held out her hand, the detonator still visible in the other. One wrong move, they all died. Emma, no. Dominic started, but Emma was already moving. She looked back at her husband, memorizing his face. I love you, no matter what happens next. Then she took Vanessa's hand, felt it close around hers like a trap. The other woman's smile was victorious. Evil. Smart girl. Maybe you do understand this world after all. Vanessa and her men backed toward the exit, Emma held at gunpoint. Dominic was screaming, guards moving to follow. But Vanessa tossed the detonator onto the floor. That's a fake, by the way. But the 3 snipers on rooftops surrounding this building? Very real. Anyone follows us, Emma dies. Make your choice, Dominic. Your revenge or her life. They disappeared into the night, and Emma realized she'd made a terrible mistake. Emma woke up in a basement somewhere in Brooklyn, her head pounding, wrists zip-tied to a chair. Vanessa sat across from her, perfectly composed, sipping wine like they were at brunch instead of a kidnapping. Good. You're awake. We have so much to discuss. The woman's smile was pleasant, which somehow made it more terrifying. Honey, when a psychopath smiles at you, you know you're in trouble. What do you want? You have me. Let Dominic go. End this. Emma's voice was hoarse, her throat dry. How long had she been out? Hours? Days? The basement had no windows, no way to tell time, just fluorescent lights and cement walls that would muffle any screams. End this? Vanessa laughed. We're just beginning. See, I realized something. Killing you would be too easy. Too quick. Dominic would mourn, but he'd eventually move on. Find someone else. No, I want him to suffer. Really suffer. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to call him. Tell him you're leaving him. That you realized you don't love him. That you want nothing to do with his world. Break his heart. Destroy him from the inside. Emma stared at her, disbelieving. You're insane. He'll never believe that. He knows I love him. But even as she said it, doubt crept in. Dominic had been betrayed before. By his father, by Vanessa herself. What if she could make it believable? What if she could hurt him enough to save him? He'll believe it because you'll be very convincing. Because if you're not, I don't kill you. I kill Marco, then Luca, then Sal. One by one, everyone he loves dies while he watches. Unless you do exactly as I say. Vanessa leaned forward, her beautiful face cold and merciless. Make the call. Break his heart. Or I start collecting bodies. They gave her a phone. No trace, prepaid, untraceable. Vanessa stood behind her with a gun pressed to her spine. Be convincing. One hint that something's wrong. Marco dies first. Emma took a shaky breath and dialed Dominic's number. It rang twice before he answered, his voice desperate. Emma? Baby? Where are you? Are you hurt? I'm fine. Emma forced her voice steady, emotionless. I'm leaving Dominic. Us. This life. I can't do it anymore. She heard him inhale sharply. What? What are you talking about? Did she hurt you? Force you to say this? God, he knew her so well, knew something was wrong. But Vanessa pressed the gun harder, her meaning clear. No one forced me. I've been thinking about this for weeks. We rushed into marriage, built everything on a lie. My father sold me to you, and I convinced myself it was love. But it wasn't. It was survival. Stockholm Syndrome. I don't love you, Dominic. I never did. I'm leaving New York. Don't look for me. Every word was a knife to her own heart. She heard him breaking on the other end of the line. You're lying. I know you. I know when you're lying. His voice cracked, desperate. Tell me where you are. We'll fix this. Whatever she threatened, whatever she said, we'll fix it together. He was begging now, this powerful man reduced to pleading. And Emma had to break him completely. There's nothing to fix. We're done. Goodbye, Dominic. She hung up before he could respond, before her resolve crumbled. The phone clattered from her hands as sobs racked her body. Vanessa smiled, victorious. Perfect. Now he's broken. Now he knows what loss feels like. But Vanessa had made one critical error. She underestimated Emma Rose Castellano. The girl who'd been sold by her father had learned to be strong. The waitress who'd married a mob boss had learned to fight. And the woman who loved Dominic with everything she had would find a way to end this, even if it killed her. Emma noticed details through her tears. The basement had old pipes, meaning an older building. She could hear traffic, faint, but there. Still in the city. And Vanessa's men were sloppy, confident they'd won. One guard instead of 3. Zip ties instead of rope. Mistakes. All of them mistakes she could exploit. She just needed time. And for Dominic to trust that the woman he married wouldn't actually leave him. Dominic didn't believe her. Thank God he didn't believe her. Emma learned this 3 hours later when Vanessa's phone rang. An unknown number she answered on speaker. You have 10 minutes to release my wife before I level every property you own in New York. Dominic's voice was cold fury, controlled and deadly. I tracked the call, I know where you are, and I'm coming. Vanessa's face went white. Impossible. The phone was clean. No way to... But she'd forgotten who she was dealing with. Dominic Castellano hadn't built an empire by being careless. He'd had every phone in New York monitored since Emma's kidnapping. Emma saw Vanessa's confidence crack for the first time. You have 9 minutes, Dominic continued. And Vanessa, if my wife has a single new bruise, I'm starting with your operations in LA. The ones you think are hidden. Nothing is hidden from me. The line went dead. Vanessa screamed in frustration, throwing her phone against the wall. Her guard shifted nervously. Smart man. Dominic was coming, and everyone knew what that meant. Change of plans. Vanessa pulled Emma to her feet, knife to her throat. We're leaving. Now. He wants you back? He can fish you out of the East River. She dragged Emma toward the basement stairs, but Emma had spent 3 hours working her zip ties against the chair's rough edge. The plastic gave way. She drove her elbow backward into Vanessa's ribs, twisted, grabbed the knife hand. They fought. Brutal. Desperate. Vanessa was trained, but Emma was fighting for her life, for her future, for the man she loved. She slammed Vanessa's hand against the wall until the knife fell, kicked her legs out from under her. The guard rushed forward, but Emma had the knife now. "Don't move." Her voice was steady, dangerous. The guard froze. The basement door exploded inward. Dominic stood there with Marco and 6 other men, guns drawn. His eyes found Emma, standing over Vanessa with a knife, covered in bruises and zip tie marks, but alive. Relief and rage warred on his face. Emma. Her name was a prayer. "Are you hurt?" "I'm fine." Emma kept the knife pointed at Vanessa. "She made me call you. Threatened to kill Marco, Luca, everyone. She wanted to break you, break us." She saw understanding dawn in Dominic's eyes. His wife hadn't abandoned him. She'd protected him the only way she could. "You couldn't leave it alone." Vanessa spat blood, laughing bitterly. "You couldn't just let me have him. Had to keep fighting. Had to make yourself into something you're not. A killer, a mob wife, a queen. You were supposed to be weak." "I was weak." Emma lowered the knife, stepped back. "The girl my father sold was weak, scared, alone. But that girl died the night I chose to stay with Dominic. The woman I became, she's stronger than you'll ever be. Because I don't need power or fear. I have something you never did. I have love. Real love. The kind that makes you better, not bitter." Marco took Vanessa into custody while Dominic crossed to Emma. His hands were gentle as he checked her injuries, his jaw tight. "I'm sorry. I should have protected you better. Should have ended this before." Emma kissed him, cutting off his guilt. "You did protect me. You trusted me, believed in me, gave me the strength to fight. We ended this together. That's what matters." They left the basement hand in hand. Police sirens wailed in the distance, anonymous tips about Vanessa's crimes flooding precincts. She'd be arrested, charged, locked away for decades. Her empire was destroyed. Her revenge failed, and Emma had survived. No, more than survived. She'd won. 6 months later, Emma stood in the brownstone kitchen, flour dusting her hands, preparing dinner. Culinary school had accepted her application. She'd start in the fall. Dominic was transitioning his operations legitimate, using Anthony's testimony to build a case that would protect them from prosecution. It would take years, but they had time. They had each other. That was enough. "Something smells incredible." Dominic wrapped his arms around her waist, kissing her neck. He'd been different since Vanessa's arrest. Softer, more open, like he'd finally allowed himself to believe happiness could last. "What's the occasion?" Emma turned in his arms, her smile nervous and excited. "I have news. Good news, I hope." She took his hand, placed it on her still flat stomach. "We're going to have a baby. I know we said we'd wait, but..." She didn't finish because Dominic was kissing her, laughing, crying, holding her like she was everything precious in the world. "A baby." He whispered it like a miracle. "Our baby." "Emma, God, He dropped to his knees, pressed his forehead to her stomach. "I promise I'll protect you, both of you. I'll be better. I'll make the world safe for our family." His voice broke with emotion, and Emma ran her fingers through his hair. "I know you will. We both will, together." She pulled him up, kissed him softly. "Our child won't grow up in my father's shadow or Vanessa's legacy. They'll grow up knowing they're loved, knowing their parents fought for something real. That's what matters." Marco arrived for dinner an hour later, followed by Luca and Sal, the men who'd become family, who'd protected Emma, believed in her, stood by them through the war with Vanessa. They toasted with sparkling cider. Emma couldn't drink anymore, and celebrated the future. A legitimate business empire. A baby on the way. Peace, finally. To Emma Castellano, Marco raised his glass. The woman who tamed the beast, destroyed the monster, and somehow made this idiot happy. He grinned at Dominic. "You're the luckiest man alive, boss." "I know." Dominic's arm tightened around Emma's waist. "Every single day, I know." "And honey, if that's not a happy ending, I don't know what is." Sure, their story started with a debt and a terrible choice. But it ended with love, family, and a future neither of them had believed possible. Sometimes the worst beginnings lead to the best endings. Emma looked out at the city lights, one hand on her stomach, the other holding her husband's. She'd been sold like property. Married a man she feared. fought a war she never wanted, and somehow, impossibly, found herself exactly where she belonged, with a man who loved her not despite her strength, but because of it. A man who'd started as her buyer but became her partner, her equal, her home. Robert Carter called 3 days later from Seattle. Sober, working a regular job, living a quiet life. "Baby girl, I heard about the baby. Congratulations." His voice was careful, hoping for forgiveness Emma wasn't ready to give. "Not yet. Maybe not ever. I know I don't deserve to be a grandfather after what I did, but I'm trying. Every day I'm trying to be better. That's all any of us can do." Emma's voice was neutral, distant. "Try to be better than we were. Make different choices. I hope you succeed, Dad. I really do. But I need more time. Our child deserves grandparents who'll protect them, not sell them. Prove you're that person, and maybe one day we'll talk." She hung up and Dominic squeezed her hand. "You're generous, giving him even that much." He'd never forgiven Robert, probably never would, but he understood Emma needed to make peace with her past on her own terms. "Whatever you decide, I support you." Emma Rose Castellano, formerly Emma Carter, formerly a nobody waitress from Brooklyn, smiled at her husband. "I know you do. That's why this works. That's why we'll make it." And they would, through whatever came next. Business challenges, parenting struggles, the normal chaos of building a life. They'd survived the extraordinary. The ordinary would be easy by comparison. Their daughter, Lily Margaret Castellano, was born on a snowy December night 7 months later. 8 pounds, perfect health, with her father's blue eyes and her mother's fierce spirit. Dominic cried when he held her, this tiny life they'd created together. "She's perfect. You're perfect. God, Emma, how did I get so lucky? You collected a debt and found something worth more than money." Emma touched their daughter's tiny hand. "You found family, love, purpose beyond power. That's luck. That's grace. That's everything." And as she watched her husband rock their baby girl, singing softly in Italian, Emma knew their story was finally complete. Not perfect. They'd never be perfect, but real, true, hard-won and deeply precious. The girl who'd been sold for $300,000 had become priceless. The mob boss who'd bought her had become a father, and the love that started as a transaction had become a legacy, one they'd pass to Lily and any future children. A legacy of strength, resilience, and choosing love, even when the world offers hate. That was the real happily ever after. Not easy, not simple, but absolutely worth fighting for.